Learning English podcast.
Have you ever been in a situation where you're trying to describe a really simple everyday routine to someone in a second language?
Oh, like just explaining what you did that morning.
Yeah, exactly. Say you're just, grabbing a coffee with a colleague and you know the vocabulary. I mean, you've spent hours grinding through flashcards, right?
Right. You know the words.
You know the exact translation for like alarm clock and breakfast and traffic.
Right.
But the absolute second you open your mouth to put it all together, you just, you completely blank. You just freeze.
It's an incredibly common phenomenon. It really is. You're sitting there, your mind is just racing, and you feel that familiar spike of panic.
Oh, the worst feeling.
And it's almost as if your brain just completely unplugs itself. The words are in there somewhere, obviously, but the bridge to actually speaking them, it just collapses.
Right. It's just complete static, and you end up just, staring at your coffee cup, mumbling something about being tired.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Well, today we are doing a deep dive into some source material that tackles this exact, really frustrating moment. We're looking at a script and a lesson from the English learning channel, Mr.Syncly.
Ah, yeah, with Jake and Sarah.
That's the one. It's a lesson featuring instructors Jake and Sarah, and it's titled The Morning Trio, Master Got, Had, and Left. And honestly, their approach is just a breath of fresh air for anyone who has ever felt that language learning paralysis.
It really is, because the premise they present is wonderfully counterintuitive.
How so?
Well, they're suggesting that if you want to sound natural, you actually need to abandon the rigid textbook grammar rules.
Or rules we all usually rely on as our safety net.
Exactly. Instead of the textbook, they advocate for a complete mindset shift toward visual storytelling, and doing it by utilizing just 3 incredibly simple words.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the promise they're making here is like huge.
It's a bold claim, yeah.
Yeah. They're saying that by mastering just these 3 everyday words, got, had, and left, you can stop freezing up under pressure. And you can actually start sounding like a natural native speaker.
Right.
But before we get to the magic words themselves, I think we really have to look at why we freeze in the first place,
Yeah.
What is actually happening in our brains during that deer in the headlights moment?
We definitely have to diagnose the underlying problem first. And what's fascinating here is the core thesis of their lesson. When you freeze up while trying to describe your morning, you actually don't have a grammar problem.
Which I have to admit is a massive relief to hear.
Right.
Because in that exact moment, it definitely feels like you're just failing a grammar test in real time.
Oh, it feels that way, absolutely.
Yeah.
But according to the lesson, what you actually have is a morning routine problem.
A morning routine problem, okay.
The reason you're freezing is that you're actively trying to translate strict grammar rules in your head in real time, rather than simply telling a story or painting a picture of your day.
Oh, I see.
Think about it. Native speakers aren't running through verb conjugation tables in their minds while they're complaining about their commute.
No, of course not.
They don't stop to think about the past perfect continuous tense. They're just describing the reality of the chaos.
I really love the way you put that. It's like trying to solve a complex calculus equation in your head,
Yeah.
while simultaneously trying to deliver the punchline to a funny joke at a crowded dinner party. Your brain just shuts down because it's too much competing cognitive load.
That is a perfect analogy.
You're prioritizing the invisible underlying mechanics of the language over the actual human communication of the experience. The math gets in the way of the story.
That's exactly it. Our working memory only has so much capacity. If you're dedicating, say, 90% of your brain power to making sure your subject and verb agree perfectly.
According to chapter 4 of a textbook.
Right, exactly. Then you have almost no processing power left to actually remember what happened to you that morning, let alone convey the emotion of it to the person you're talking to.
So if we take this advice to heart and we just throw out the textbook rules entirely, how do we actually structure this messy reality?
Well, you have to start at the beginning.
Right, but if we're shifting from being a mathematician to being a storyteller, how do we build that narrative?
Well, reality starts at the very beginning of the day. To tell a compelling story, you always need an inciting incident. You need the spark that breaks the sleep and, kicks off the narrative arc of your morning.
And that brings us to the very first word in our morning trio,
Okay.
Word number 1, which is got.
Yes, got. The spark of action.
So got is obviously the past tense of get.
Right, but we aren't looking at it as a grammar piece, remember? We're looking at it visually.
Visually, okay.
In the context of our morning storytelling, got is the engine starting. It marks that exact, definitive shift from doing absolutely nothing, being asleep, motionless in your bed, to suddenly doing something.
Jake and Sarah give some really great specific examples to anchor this idea. The very first one is super simple. I got up late. That is the kinetic action that physically breaks the sleep. You were horizontal, and now you are vertical.
You're up. The engine is on.
But the engine analogy doesn't just stop at the moment your feet hit the floor, right?
Oh, not at all. It carries through that entire early active part of the morning. For instance, another example they use is, I got a message early.
Oh, okay. So imagine the visual here. You're looking at your phone right after you open your eyes, the screen lights up, and you see a really stressful text from your boss.
Yeah, that sudden action of receiving that message is a got. Or think about the physical act of acquiring your morning caffeine. They use the example, we got coffee before work.
Right. So in this visual story, that means you physically went to a counter, you acquired the coffee, and paid for it. It's an active transactional movement.
They also paint this incredibly vivid picture of a frantic commute.
Oh, the bus example.
Yeah. You have a woman running out of breath, the doors of the bus are literally closing, and she jumps inside just in the nick of time.
And the phrase there is, she got on the bus late. Wait, so it's all about that kinetic movement, that sudden burst of momentum.
And that is the specific mental image you really need to hold on to. Got is fast. It's busy. It's punchy.
It's the starting line of the day.
Exactly. Whenever your morning shifts into gear, whenever the engine goes vroom, that is when you deploy the word got.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, sure.
Because I'm putting myself in the shoes of a learner here. Got is notoriously one of the most frustrating, confusing verbs in the entire English language.
Oh, absolutely. People use it for literally everything.
Right. It can mean to receive, to become, to acquire, to understand. I mean, it's a total linguistic chameleon.
It is.
So how does picturing a car engine starting that vroom concept actually help someone avoid confusing got with all these other potential meanings when they're under pressure?
That's a really sharp question, actually, and it cuts right to the heart of why this method works. The brilliance of this approach is that it intentionally restricts the scope of the word for this specific narrative purpose.
Interesting.
By linking got purely to the visual of an engine, starting that initial burst of morning action, it stops the learner from getting bogged down in all those dictionary definitions you just listed.
So you're saying it narrows the menu of options.
Exactly. You aren't standing there asking yourself, wait, does got mean acquired or received in this sentence?
You're not doing the math.
Right. You are just asking yourself one simple visual question. Is this the start of an action?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you're lying in bed and suddenly you are up, that's an action starting. Got up. If you're standing still at a bus stop and suddenly you're lunging onto the bus, action started. Got on.
I see. It ties the vocabulary directly to a physical visual transition rather than an abstract grammatical definition. Okay, that makes sense. It turns a confusing multi-purpose tool into a highly specific trigger for action. Instead of sorting through a mental filing cabinet of definitions, you're just looking for movement.
Exactly.
But, you can't just run a car engine forever without giving it some fuel. Or at least the adrenaline of jumping on buses and reading stressful texts eventually has to level off.
Right.
Once that morning action starts, you have to actually live it.
Precisely. The initial adrenaline spike of getting up naturally slows down. The narrative pace of your morning shifts.
Right.
The focus moves away from pure, chaotic action toward consumption, toward feeling, and toward the actual lived experience of being awake.
And that transition seamlessly ushers in the second word in our morning trio, which is had.
Had. If got is running frantically around your kitchen looking for your keys, had is finally sitting down at the table.
I love that.
Yeah, had equals food, experience, or possession.
The examples here are just so universally relatable. They talk about the phrase, we had pancakes. And the visual they suggest isn't the cooking or the buying. It's holding a warm plate, pouring the syrup, and eating them slowly. You are experiencing the pancakes.
Exactly. Or the quintessential morning survival juice. I had coffee.
Oh, yeah. You poured it into that big blue mug. You're holding it with both hands to feel the warmth, and you're taking a slow sip.
And it's crucial to note here that had isn't strictly limited to consuming food or drinks, which is a common misconception.
Wait, really? What else does it cover?
Well, it applies to the overarching feeling or condition of the morning as well.
Oh, that's right. Because you aren't just eating in the morning, you're feeling things. The lesson uses the example, I had a terrible morning.
Yes.
That perfectly describes a mood or a disaster scenario playing out. It's an experience you're living through, not just an action you took.
Exactly. Or if you're describing a rush schedule, you might say, I had no time. You're experiencing that specific lack of time. It's a state of being.
This is where we hit a really powerful distinction in the lesson. I think it's the real aha moment of the entire deep dive.
Oh, the coffee comparison.
Yes. They compare two incredibly similar sentences side by side to show the massive difference in storytelling. Sentence 1 is, I got coffee, and sentence 2 is, I had coffee.
Yeah, this is a great example.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because materially, objectively speaking, it is the exact same beverage. We are talking about coffee in both scenarios.
Right.
But the word choice completely changes the movie scene that plays in the listener's head.
Let's break down that movie scene.
Yeah.
If you say to your colleague, I got coffee, the mental picture you're painting is all about acquisition.
Okay, so you're standing at a bustling cafe, you're pulling out your wallet, handing money to a barista, and taking a paper cup across the counter.
Yes, it's an action sequence. It belongs in the got category of kinetic movement and transaction.
But if you say, I had coffee, the whole genre of the movie changes. Now it's an indie drama. You're sitting on your sofa, you're holding your favorite ceramic mug, you're drinking it slowly and looking out the window while the sun comes up. It's entirely about consumption and the internal quiet experience of that moment.
It perfectly illustrates why relying on grammar translations fails us in real conversations.
How so?
Well, a textbook might tell you that both got and had are perfectly acceptable past tense constructs to use with coffee. Grammatically, neither is wrong.
Right.
But only visual storytelling tells you that got means you acquired it at Starbucks, and had means you drank it at your kitchen table.
Wow.
By choosing the verb based on the picture in your head, you bypass the grammar translation entirely.
You're acting as the director for the person listening to you. You're telling them exactly what to visualize.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so we've started the engine with got, we've fueled up and experienced the morning with had. But eventually, that quiet experience has to end, right? The indie drama is over.
Unfortunately, yes.
You have to put the empty coffee mug in the sink, grab your bag, and the morning story has to move forward out into the real world.
Which brings us to the third and final phase of our morning routine, and the third word in our trio, left.
Left, the ultimate transition word, the boundary line.
Exactly. Left represents departure and movement forward. If you're trying to visualize this one, the mental picture to hold on to is the physical act of stepping outside your home and hearing your front door lock click shut behind you.
Just that click.
Yeah. It is the definitive boundary line between your morning routine and the rest of your day.
The examples are super clean here. You might say, I left home at 8:00. Or if you want to explain that you were trying to avoid traffic for a high-pressure meeting, I left early.
It also applies to leaving that cafe we talked about earlier. Like, we left the cafe at 9:00. It's just establishing the moment of exit.
And what's great is that it handles negative scenarios beautifully too. Right?
Oh yeah, imagine locking that door, walking out towards your car, and then reaching into your pocket and feeling nothing. I left my phone at home.
Oh, the worst feeling.
It perfectly captures that specific sinking feeling of realizing something didn't make the departure with you.
They even show how this concept scales to bigger routines outside of a standard workday, like a family vacation scenario.
Right.
They describe a family eating eggs and toast at a hotel buffet, so they had breakfast, and then connecting that to heading out to the beach by saying they left after breakfast. The word left acts as a bridge from the experience to the next adventure.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what Jake and Sarah have built here is a flawless 3-step chronological timeline.
Okay, break that down.
Well, got is the action, had is the experience, left is the movement forward.
Got, had, left.
Exactly. By internalizing this specific sequence, you have a ready-made template for a story that requires absolutely zero grammar translation. You just plug the details of your life into the 3 visual steps.
I love the elegance of this framework. It takes so much pressure off, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second.
Bring it on.
This sounds incredibly clean in theory when we're dissecting it here on a deep dive, but when someone actually tries to string these together in the real world under the pressure of a live conversation, don't they still trip over their own feet?
Oh, absolutely.
Where do the wheels fall off when people try to apply this?
It's a very fair point, and it naturally sets up the next crucial segment from the lesson. They anticipated this, so they actually built an error lab, specifically to deconstruct the most common mistakes learners make.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, these mistakes almost always happen when someone tries to use this visual system but accidentally slips back into their old habit of translating grammar instead of picturing the story.
Let's dive right into that error lab, because I think knowing exactly where the traps are is just as important as knowing the rules themselves.
Definitely.
Let's walk through the specific mistakes they highlight. The first major mistake they point out is someone saying, "I got breakfast."
Right. Now, if we look at this purely mechanically, there is nothing structurally wrong with "I got breakfast."
Right. The grammar is fine.
Exactly. The error is entirely in the storytelling context.
Yeah.
If you were trying to describe waking up and eating eggs in your own kitchen, saying, "I got breakfast," sounds incredibly strange to a native speaker.
Because, as we established earlier with the coffee example, got is an acquisition action. It strongly implies a transaction.
Exactly. If you say, "I got breakfast," while you were just standing in your own kitchen, it implies you drove to a fast food drive-thru, bought it, and brought it back.
Or perhaps you paid your roommate to cook it for you.
Right. If you are just eating the food you already have in your house, the correct visual is sitting and experiencing it. Therefore, to match the picture, it must be, "I had breakfast."
The movie in the speaker's head doesn't match the words coming out of their mouth. It's like a continuity error in a film.
It's a great way to put it.
Okay, mistake number 2 from the error lab. I had up late. Now I can totally see why someone might say this in a panic.
Oh, yeah. This is a classic case of mixing up the verbs under pressure. A learner knows they need to use one of these simple words. They know it's a got, had, or left situation, but their hand slips and they grab the wrong tool from the toolbox.
But the fix is actually really simple if you force yourself to go back to the visual rules.
Not so.
Well, getting up out of bed is the spark. It's the engine starting. It is the very first kinetic action that breaks the sleep. Therefore, it can't possibly be had, which is about a slow experience. It has to be the action word, "I got up late."
Precisely. You return to the mental picture to correct the error, not to the grammar textbook. You ask yourself, was I starting an engine or was I sitting at a table?
All right, the third mistake from the lab. And this one is super subtle but very common. The sentence is, "I left to work at 8:00. Now, if a learner said that to me, I'd know exactly what they meant, but it definitely feels a bit awkward to the ear.
It does feel awkward, and there's a very specific reason why. The word left is fundamentally about the departure point.
The departure point.
Yes, it is entirely focused on the door you are walking out of, the place you are exiting, not the place you are going to.
Okay. So it's about looking backward at the space you're leaving, not looking forward at your final destination.
Exactly. So if your focus is on the act of leaving the house, the phrasing should simply be, "I left home at 8:00.
Just left home.
Right. If you really want to focus on the destination, on where you are eventually arriving, you need to switch the verb entirely and say, "I went to work at 8:00.
I see.
The mistake happens because learners often try to smash the departure and the destination into a single thought to save time. Left belongs exclusively to the home base you are exiting.
That distinction makes so much sense. Departure versus destination. It really clears up that awkward phrasing.
Really does.
And to really cement all of this, the lesson culminates in what they call the ultimate role play. They put all 3 words together in a single, painful, very relatable, real-life Monday morning scenario.
Yes, the scenario they present is the quintessential bad morning.
Let's hear it.
I got up late, I had cold coffee, and I left the house without my keys.
Oh, man. I got up late, I had cold coffee, and I left the house without my keys. It is a complete narrative arc in just one sentence.
And notice how effortless it feels to process that as a listener.
Yeah, totally.
You immediately understand the speaker's stress level, their timeline, and their current frustrating predicament, all conveyed through 3 basic verbs.
It's amazing.
What's fascinating here is this raises an important question about how we fundamentally teach language across the board. For so long, the focus has been on memorizing complex tenses and drilling conjugations, which really only increases cognitive load and anxiety.
Right.
But by shifting the focus to the visual movie scene, By teaching learners to link simple words to specific, tangible moments in time, the stress of speaking naturally virtually disappears.
It's a total paradigm shift. You're moving from mechanics to meaning. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's distill the key takeaways from this deep dive so you can actually use this tomorrow morning.
The framework is beautifully simple. First, got starts the action. It is the engine turning over.
Okay.
Second, had enjoys the experience. It is the slowing down to consume or feel the morning.
Right.
And third, left moves the day forward. It is the physical departure into the wider world.
And the overarching philosophy driving all of this, the golden rule that really ties us all together, is that good English is just good storytelling.
Perfectly said.
You don't need to sound like an academic research paper to sound fluent. You just need to paint a clear picture for the person sitting across from you.
Exactly. It completely removes the pressure of feeling like every casual conversation is a pop quiz on grammar rules. You aren't taking a test, you're just sharing the reality of your life.
It's incredibly freeing, but it also leaves us with a really fascinating thread to pull on. We've just spent all this time analyzing how shifting your understanding of three incredibly basic verbs, got, had, and left, can completely transform the movie playing in your listener's head. It makes me wonder, if these tiny, mundane words hold so much hidden narrative power, what other everyday words are we all using purely out of habit, rather than using them to intentionally direct the story of our lives?
That is a great question.
It really makes you rethink the script you use every time you open your mouth. Something to think about the next time you find yourself freezing mid-sentence.